Can we have a call to order? Let's have a roll call.
Member Durham.
Here.
Member Gates.
Here.
Member Wennerberg.
Here.
Chair Anglin.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Chair Janes is absent.
Okay.
Excused.
Let's adopt the agenda. Okay.
All good.
And since there are no minutes from the last meeting, we'll just move on to public comment. And since there is one member of the public here, and I know she's not here just to talk about something else, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is there's nothing on that. So we'll go right into the public hearing and staff report.
All right. Tonight you have before you the new entryway, signage, lighting, and landscaping for the V Marketplace complex. And as you know, this entry was required as a condition of approval for the Bottega walk-in refrigeration unit project, and it was due to the fact that the unit narrowed the walkway, the main walkway from the parking lot to the event center and the rear situated businesses. The structure that is proposed is a freestanding structure that features stone columns, and it will be topped with a steel plate arch. It's located about 15 feet north to the existing elevator shaft, and it will wind between two of the existing elms that are in the planter adjacent to the parking lot. Access through the entryway is gained via a 10-foot wide walkway that sweeps south and connects with existing walkways on the V Marketplace property. It will be bordered with a new boxwood hedge and lighted with low-level path lights. In the area of the existing walkway between the refrigeration unit and the elevator, there are a few improvements proposed. One is to remove a segment of the walkway between the parking lot and the east elevation of the elevator, and to also remove the paving and brick planters that are beneath the overhead pedestrian bridge to and from the elevator. And this transition from hardscape to a planter will result in the area being landscaped with the plants that are identified in the staff report. Because of the extension of the landscaping, there is a continuation proposed of the split rail fence and the railroad tie curbing to create a uniform frontage along the planter and to direct all pedestrian access through the new entry point. There are two new striped crosswalks in the parking lot to facilitate pedestrian movement to the entry. One will originate from the center parking island in the area of the handicap stall, and the other will follow the south line of the parking lot to and from Washington Street. There are three new signs that are proposed. One is a complex identification sign that would be located on the arch at the top of the structure, and it's approximately a 4-foot square sign, and it would feature cutout letters on the steel plate. The other two signs are business identification signs that would be located on the stone columns on either side of the walkway. One would identify Bottega, the other would identify Napa style, and these two feature the same cutout on the steel plate background. These two signs, however, would be lighted with a linear LED light that would be mounted behind the signs, and the effect is to wash the stone columns. So the applicant is seeking two approvals from you tonight. One is design review, and the other is a master sign plan amendment. And with regards to design review, the project complies with the design ordinance standards and the findings that are presented in the staff report. With regards to the master sign plan amendment, it's consistent with the signage allotment for the V Marketplace site as a whole that was approved in the master sign plan in 2002. And we are recommending approval of the project subject to the conditions that are attached to the staff report.
Other questions of staff?
I am going to ask my question in public, as I have consulted before with staff about this, which is, We've just recently, and I don't know at what stage it's at, it was proposed or passed by the town council, which was penalty fees for different things. It's not in my handbook yet, because I know it's something new or in discussion. Has that completely passed, or?
It has. New fees went into effect July 1st.
Okay. Do they
I don't
provide
recall
any
having
like that?
a fee that's a penalty for not complying with conditions of approval in a timely fashion, but that's something that I could look into more closely, and Bob, I'd ask you if you can think if that was one of them. I didn't think it was.
Those are more related to nuisances, that properties that aren't kept up, that kind of.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's talk about it. Jan, would you like to make a presentation?
Good evening, Jan Lee-Fector, the Marketplace General Manager. One note that Sandra was just a little inaccurate, that we're going to add a new handicap accessible parking space. There isn't one there currently, so that will be an addition of one new accessible space, which will start the origination of that pathway from the parking lot to the new entry. We apologize for the delay. Thank you for no penalties, because I don't believe we created any nuisance, but there was just a lot of concern about which was the exact right way to go, and once you've established this path, it's not easy to redo it. So a lot of projects in place. We were finishing the new ice cream and or gelato and chocolate shop, which I'm sure you've all seen and can enjoy. So a lot going on for one little manager to get done in a year, but I appreciate your patience, and I think you'll be happy with the end product. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you didn't walk over there and you have an opportunity to, the grape, the old vintage grape crusher is sort of sitting in the path right now, and there's some boxed hedges that kind of take away your view, but when those things part and you see the raising of the canopies of the elms, it's a really pretty view into the back courtyard. It's much improved over the current entry there, and we're also getting people away from the back of the house of an extremely busy restaurant by moving this path up just a little bit north. And you mentioned the brick planters that are coming out. There's 2 brick planters to the north of the new entry, and they're sort of vintage, if you will, but our architect, Dave Roche, dictated the removal of those because they confuse the new entry. It was where you walked up to the old wooden walkway and ramp to the second floor. That's those 2 planters that are there. They have flowers in them now, and they're made out of brick. And there's a brick landing. That was the origination of those steps. So it makes it a little confusing. It looks like that should be an entry, and so we need to, get rid of those in order to make the entry stand really strong and clear, the new entry. Happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. The in plan, the arch with the V cutout looks like it's thicker. What is it? Is it 2 walls of steel with lighting on the inside? How does that work?
There's no lighting to that.
So
it's just simply an arch with the V
one
Marketplace.
piece of plate steel that arches over.
I would assume it's going to have some dimension to it.
Like a half inch.
But yeah, and I'm working with the sign company now. Certainly not, we don't have our approval yet, so we haven't gone too far. But it'll be. I mean, we want it to look substantial. Certainly not too thin, but it may be 2 pieces fused together if that's easier for them to do. I'm just not sure of how they're actually going to. We made a design. Now you figure out how to make it. So we're going probably going with ASA, Architectural Signs of Napa. And they do good work. They just finished the Kohler Chocolates cutout metal sign, so that's why we decided to let them have the bid on this.
So it'll just be laser cut letters cut through the steel.
Can't speak to whether it's laser cut or not, but I mean,
But it'll be cut through the steel?
yes, exactly.
Okay. And then my second question is, because you have this ADA parking space there, do you have an ADA path to come to the elevator?
Do we have a what path? I'm sorry.
ADA path?
Well, we'll have a delineated path, and it will meet ADA requirements, of course.
Yeah, that's my question. Will it meet ADA requirements?
Of course.
Okay. Because it looks kind of narrow. I guess it would be coming up these side ramps, coming up to the step here. Is that correct?
Do you have it? Do you
There's a
have my
plan right over there. Maybe you could
pedestrian-
step over there and show
Right,
us.
it's not exactly on that plan, because that plan doesn't go into the parking lot.
Excuse me.
Do you have that
Oh.
perspective that I showed on a?
Yes, this is in your packet. Although I
Right.
don't
It's
have
kind
it.
of hard to read.
This one? Approach?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that'd be fine. This is not a very formal proceeding.
This is a. Want to approach without asking? Wait, myself. Sorry. This is the parking bay as it is right now, and we would add the handicap accessible at the southwest
Got it?
point, and this is certainly not to scale.
No.
It's simply, we want to show a delineated path that would meet all requirements, of course, for that handicap accessible parking space to get to the new entry.
So this new concrete path will be at the same
Well, it's
level
not going to be a
as...
concrete path. It'll simply be the parking lot with a striping.
No, I'm saying this
I'm sorry.
right here.
Yes.
This-
Will that be handicap accessible?
Well, of course it will be, but my question, if you wait a minute, is that as you come across the parking lot, this will be at the same level, so you won't have a ramp or you won't have a change of grade or a step at this point
There
here?
might be a slight grade change, but certainly within,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's all on grade.
okay. There's no step there.
No step.
Got it. So these two side ramps have nothing to do with the ADA. Isn't that a ramp coming up to there, or
No, those
what?
are just flat walkways in the parking lot.
Just flat walkway, and then this is a curb, or what is
It's
it?
a railroad tie currently?
And so there's a change in grade from that sidewalk down to the,
No.
oh, so
Everything is virtually flat.
so the railroad tie is set
The
into
railroad tie
the,
delineates the path
Yeah.
from the parking lot.
but it's all flush.
Yep.
Got it.
Well, the railroad tie is certainly not flush. I mean, the railroad tie is raised,
That's what I was asking.
well, of course. But it delineates, it's a safety issue from the parking lot to the pedestrian path. That's there now. It
Okay,
exists.
okay, and on both sides.
They can't hear her.
We need to get you a microphone.
Sorry.
I don't know what I need to re-say. The pathways are all on the same level. There's no elevation changes. There is a railroad tie existing that delineates the pedestrian path, if you will, from the parking lot. So it's a bumper or a curb, if you will, a little higher than a regular curb, so that a car backing up couldn't
Right.
encroach on the pedestrian path.
Okay. And
But
so.
you don't have to step over it to get into the path. It's
Right.
flattened.
There'll be an
So,
opening.
so, I mean, essentially, the path is going to be from the parking space, and there'll be some delineation across the way to this
Blue
new,
painting
to
is
this
ADA
new
compliant.
concrete walkway that will go to the elevator. Okay. That was my question. Thanks.
Sorry, I misunderstood. There's a
No.
lot going on there.
Thank you. Other questions? Bob?
I have a couple of questions, Jan. I'm not a botanist, but I don't think those are elm trees. I think they're poplar and birch with an oak stuck back in there somewhere, but,
They are birch
A minor
trees. I don't know why I said elm. They're birch trees.
okay.
Thank you.
You're going to obviously have to remove some of those?
Nope. We're raising the canopies on all of them. There's enough room between these two to get the path in.
And that brick wall thing with the arch in it? What's that all about? Is that
It
going to
was,
stay or be removed?
it's going to stay. It was one of the supports for the wooden ramp.
Oh, okay, that's one of the things you're talking about.
Yeah, it sort of just looks like a relic now. We let people use their imagination.
And as the path comes around just close to the end, there's a outdoor storage area there.
On the right-hand side?
Next to the bathrooms.
Next to the bathrooms, thank you. And I looked in there, I didn't see a whole lot in there. I know there's quite a bit of storage at the rear of the property. Is it being considered to perhaps remove that and
No.
improve that whole area rather than just kind of empty out into the gate to where the storage area is?
Well, no, there's no consideration for removing that storage. The storage that's there right now, there's two compartments to that storage. The one that's closest to the building is for lighting fixtures for the pavilion. You don't see them there now. They're not using those light fixtures as much anymore, so they're in interior storage at the moment, but they may use them again. It's also where all of our fire and water systems are.
Oh, okay, never mind.
And then the gated section that's the next section east is Firewood Storage for Bottega, and also there a glass collection area for recyclables. Bottega was designed beautifully on the inside with very little outdoor storage, so we're sort of all sharing essential areas for, and recycling is huge. I mean, if we just could put everything in one garbage can, we'd be, it'd be a lot easier.
So
But we
that
can't.
contained area is going to stay as is?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, it's at a height where nobody can really see in it if they, and I think, again, if you saw the view walking through there, it really opens up into Bottega on your left and the pavilion on your right, and I don't think it'll be very noticeable. We have a gorgeous oak tree that was just an old scrub that has just grown beautifully, and you don't really see that, and you will when you enter the path now.
Okay. And the current walkway that's going to be removed, well, why not keep that as a service delivery area rather than using this pathway? It looks to me like it's set up for that. There's a place to spot trucks in there.
It would be very, very confusing. Because a lot of people use that
Coolers are right
path
there,
anyway.
the kitchen's right there. It just seems like it'd be a piece of cake to,
The coolers?
well, whatever it is we just,
The walk-ins,
whatever it
the
is that we
exterior
approved a
walk-ins.
while ago.
Right. No, the pathway that we're taking out is this short piece of concrete.
Yeah, I know, but that's obviously where service deliveries are currently being made?
No.
Where are they currently being made?
No, they're made into that walk-in area. So the piece that we're taking out is simply a pedestrian pathway that goes into, that's what we're replacing. It goes to the elevator and into the courtyard. There's very, very little delivery that
Whatever
gets made.
delivery is, there will be coming down the new pathway.
There will be some deliveries coming down the new pathway. They would go back to Napa Style. There's no other way to get for UPS or FedEx deliveries to get to Napa Style. I shouldn't say that. They can come around the back, but that would be retraining the Napa Style. And if UPS has other deliveries like up the elevator and such, then they tend to go that way. So there will be some deliveries on that pathway.
Okay.
But the area that we're removing is just a tiny portion that starts at the planting area and goes to the elevator, just to the elevator. So the elevator landing will remain, and elevator access will come from the new walkway.
So when I was up there today, there were quite a few trucks parked up there making deliveries. Is that pretty, and it was
It's
fairly
very,
late. Is
very
it an
common.
ongoing thing all day long?
It's very common, and that's why we talk about in my narrative about a loading and unloading zone that we're trying to establish. I had fire out, and we're waiting for approval from fire on the plans now to help us manage that loading and unloading zone so that we have some delineation so that the new entry stays open.
Aren't you going to have to sacrifice some parking spaces to make a delivery zone?
We're hoping not. You know, the parking lot is very wide there. It's also wide over on the north or on the east-west side that would border the electrical area, if you know where that area is. So we'll either establish that as a loading area or north of the new pathway, so that we'll leave that area very open, very visible.
Okay.
And as I said, I'm going to have to put a hat and a whistle on and have a checklist of all the trucks that come in and out and probably reteach a lot of truck drivers for a week or so. I mean, Yountville's notorious for having issues with loading and unloading. I mean, it's an extremely busy area. You know, that's the area that UPS and FedEx park for all of our shops, all of the restaurant service vehicles and deliveries and vendors.
They'll all be going up and
So-
down the pathway, obviously.
Say it again?
They will all be going up and down the new pathway.
The only
Or
vendors
up
that
the
would be
elevator.
going, yeah, the only vendors that would be going up and down the pathway would be to the shops and to Napa Style.
Okay.
The vendors for the restaurant would simply go in that back door.
And one final question, I didn't see anywhere in here, what's the surface composition of the new pathway?
Concrete. It's a colored concrete.
Colored concrete?
It'll match.
Do you know what color?
It's a buff. I don't know the exact color, but it's a buff. If you walk back towards Bottega, as you enter the pavilion, the concrete that's between the pavilion and Bottega, it'll be that color to match.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just piggyback on color. What color is the arch piece going to be? Everything here
Cortan
says-
steel, like a
Okay.
rusting steel. It
Rusting.
should match, we're hoping that with some age possibly, it will match the roof of Bottega, and that's what we're going for.
That's all.
And so
Bottega walk-in, sorry.
so the signs on the pillars are the same Corten? I had another question about you're taking out that sidewalk that comes behind the elevator right now, but then you're keeping a section of it looks like you're keeping a section of the sidewalk that appears to dead end behind the elevator. Is that true?
That's the entrance elevator.
That's the entrance to the elevator.
That's the entrance to the
You don't get in there. That's a storage thing.
Oh, that's a
That's the elevator equipment
got it,
behind
got
it.
it.
That's
The elevator
that's
equipment
is
room.
behind it.
Yeah,
So that's
there's-
the equipment room
that's the
on the
equipment room
backside
for the
of-
elevator.
I got it. Okay.
There's a little piece, probably 4x4, for a landing for that. That'll be removed and will connect with the new concrete. So all the new
Got it.
concrete will be
Okay.
integrated there. So
Thanks.
I've got a question. I've got two. I was at Bottega on Monday. I went to the chocolate shop today. I spent the last 4 days at V Marketplace.
excellent. Thank you.
Walking your new path as
spent
well.
money.
Walking your new path. That's why I know it's the elevator equipment back there. But I've got to agree with Rob in one respect of, I'm wondering, I know it's confusing, but I watch staff use that walkway nonstop to get in and out of Bottega, to get in and out of that area. And it just seems to me that their Bottega staff and management's fully aware of taking away that walkway and everything?
I
That's big.
I can't say that their staff is, but
Okay.
their owner and management is, yes.
Okay, very good. Because I saw busboys, I saw cooks, I saw everybody using that walkway nonstop the whole time that I've been there the last 4 days. So it just seems to me
We'll
that
have to
it's still-
reroute a bit.
Okay,
But
very good.
the town agreed. I mean, Bob, Sandra, I, and Steve were all out there kind of cooking this up together,
Okay.
trying to figure out the best way to handle this. And it seems like it would be confusing to keep both entrances.
Okay. And then secondly, that planter that's at the end of the new walkway, that planting where it says E-planting right in front of the end of the walkway?
Right in front of the end of the walkway.
Next to
So
the
the new-
elevator?
Yeah, north-south.
No, next to the estate building, where the estate building is. If you come south, there's that planting. There is a slight grade change, and there's a
There is a
wall.
slight grade.
But there's that planter wall coming forward, and then there's no wall coming to the right. I can assure you, in California, someone will be suing V Marketplace within the next 8 months if that's not changed. We're pushing all that traffic right to that planting where there is a raised wall, and then all of a sudden, the end of the wall comes down, but the walkway is right butted up against to it. So you're pushing all that traffic directly into people drinking at Bouchon and walking over to Bottega and vice versa. That's, to me, should be a big concern.
Okay. I can assure you that safety is my number one concern.
Yeah.
And so if we see any sort of issue with the finish in this, I don't think it would be anything that would deter design review from approving it, but it will be handled by us. I have a very good track record, been at the marketplace over 20 years, and
Yeah.
have very few incidences. So
Oh, no, I
it
don't
is our
doubt it.
number
I'm
one
just
concern.
saying, all of a sudden, you're taking all that traffic that's going straight past it and putting it right on top to where that planter is, and you've got to make a sharp left to come around to it, and most people are not going to make a sharp left. They're going to cut short and hit that wall. I'm just bringing up a point, so.
It's really difficult to take a piece of paper and make it perfect.
No, I understand. That's why
So-
that's why I walked it and took a look at it. I think overall it's great. I'm just talking about the ending there where it lands onto the property and the walkway there.
Okay. I assure you, every effort will be made. I don't need a lawsuit.
Yeah, I understand.
Any other questions, Rob? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about it. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss?
It's been Rob's discussion for the last few meetings. I think he should talk.
I'll
Well, I
start.
guess you got the call.
I'll start, and I want to first say I love V Marketplace, I love Bottega, I love the property, and this is kind of me making a point, and the point is when we make something a condition, I feel like we're either ringing hollow if we just go, okay, you didn't do it, that's fine, move along, versus actually taking some sort of action or discussion about it. I mean, we take this condition, for example, and quite frankly, I'm like, I'm glad it's happening, and I don't think it causes nuisance or anything like that. But you look at some of our other conditions, and you take somebody like the Knight project. One of the conditions there was that they were required to reduce the size of their basements to a certain level so that they couldn't use them as second dwellings. Now, what happens if they just go, don't want to, and go forward without it? And I feel like we need to have a discussion about gradations of conditions, that one condition we are fine with breaking, but another condition we have some difficulties breaking, and that we should at least as a board come to some sort of discussion about that. Kind of beyond this just happens to be one that, it said one of the conditions was to be completed within 6 months. Here we are a year later and we're talking about it, so it'll probably take another month or so to get it to completion at the minimum. So we're talking about a condition that was severely, we're not even talking a month here or there or something like that. It's way overdue. So I'm curious more about what everybody else here on the board thinks about that in general, about the conditions and people breaking conditions. And do we I think it goes to onto another conversation we've been having about, you take the garage, this is a garage or not, and we just go, okay, you didn't do it. And I feel like that's kind of been the direction things have been going, and I don't know if that's the direction we want to keep going, because then it's like, why are we doing this? If we just write things on and make conditions and then people don't do them and we go,
Well, I feel it is a valid discussion we should have, because I think that things do have a tendency to slip. I think, but I don't think we necessarily have to have it in this form on this particular project. But I would be kind of interested in just knowing quickly the history of the discussions between the staff and V Marketplace in terms of the initial proposal, and then it sounds like they worked on a plan with you, and then that wasn't acceptable to, I guess, V Marketplace. Was it an ongoing process? I guess was this an ongoing discussion between?
Yes, we've been in discussions with V Marketplace over the course of the past year. Didn't start immediately after they had approval, but after they had some time to consider the location, and they tried to work through one plan in the location that we're seeing now, threw around that idea, returned to the thinking they could save the original walkway and enhance that. Drawings were made for that, but from V Marketplace's stance, it wasn't the type of entry they wanted. I would say staff supports that too. I think that this third time around in this location is the best proposal they've presented. So it is a delay in the condition. The purpose of writing the condition was to let V Marketplace know that this was important. They were narrowing the walkway. We expected to see something soon. We set a firm deadline of 6 months, and what we see here is a delay. Ultimately, we're getting a better product. So in the end, staff supports the process we've gone through and where we're at this point. That would be very different in terms of breaking a condition than going to Vineyard Oaks and saying they do a different type of basement. That's a built condition. That's something that isn't a delay, but part of the guts of the project. So we would view it differently. And
See, I feel if it was a continuing discussion between staff and the applicant, and it was working for both parties towards a resolution that was acceptable to everyone, I mean, you're acting in our interest in continuing the discussion. So I have less of a problem with that than some of the things that Rob's referring to outside of this particular application. So, I mean, that is your role, is to make sure that we get the best product and process too at the same time. And so, if that's an ongoing give and take and discussion, I personally am fine with that. You all may feel differently, and if you do, speak up.
I'm actually going to jump in just to maybe redirect a little bit. I'd like to have this as kind of a policy discussion. Maybe it's more appropriately done that way. I would go ahead and approve this project. I think they've done fine. I don't think this should keep this from happening.
Yeah.
But I'd like to have maybe this, as we move forward, as like an agendized policy discussion of what are we going to do when people do break conditions, and is there any sort of recourse or consequence that does come into play moving forward? Because I don't think we have had that discussion concretely yet. I don't think it's fair to penalize this applicant and agreed this is less egregious than something like a built condition being violated. So I wanted to jump in there that maybe it'd be fair to let them go and we can have that discussion kind of separate from this particular project.
I agree. Let's talk specifically about this project, and if there are any comments that people would like to make, or if you're all in agreement, we can just bring it to a vote. I would like to say that it does look like it's going to be a nice, graceful entrance to a space that was not so much before. So I think it is a real positive improvement. So,
Have they given you any idea how long it's going to take to do it? Roughly?
Prior to approval, I haven't finalized all the bidding process, so
I mean, once they start construction, a couple months?
I would say it would be less than that once I have the bids in place and find the correct contractors. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense to start the process until
Timing
it's
to do
approval.
that?
I'm sorry?
Your timing for contractor selection is?
Well, I have started with the signage, as I said, because I wanted to get a number affixed to that. So I'll start tomorrow, but
you
it doesn't make a lot of sense to start until it's approved, and then they have to go back and do more work. So people aren't real agreeable to putting out bids right now for nothing.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
so would someone like to make a motion on this?
No, I'm fine.
I'd motion to approve as presented with the conditions presented.
And the conditions that have been written up by staff. And I would second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. No one. So it is approved, and so now you can get your contractors.
Thank you. The only thing I'll add to that is we have a very busy event calendar, and construction always complicates that. So I will be looking at our event calendar, but my absolute goal is to get it done as soon as possible. But if we have a wedding every weekend for the next 6 weeks, I'm not going to interrupt that process. So obviously before the rainy season, I would say for sure. But, if I'm not held to a day, that would be great. As I say, I have a 20-year track record of getting projects done, so I appreciate you not considering me a scofflaw at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So,
well, I think I'd like to
you want to talk
discuss
about
a
this?
little bit more about Rob, what Rob has raised and this policy discussion, and it seems in line with a lot of other issues that the ZDRB has raised with parking and Old Town Historic, finishes and requirements and things of that nature. And so in this regard, we were thinking of holding a joint meeting with the town council to share ideas and get the dialogue going between both boards of what's important and how we should move forward. And I think this is definitely an element that we would include in that. We are wanting to do that relatively soon, as soon as we have a town council agenda that has, that's open enough that we could have this type of workshop. And it looks like we would be shooting for September, so we'll keep you apprised of what date that might be, and we'd hope that your schedule would be free and that you could come. And then
Right,
if you have
there'll be
anything to add.
council members absent in August. So we were looking at a September meeting. And also, kind of getting back to this specific instance, staff met at least twice at the site, discussed this, and looked at every angle to this thing. And then there was the intervening project of the cooler box, and that kind of changed that whole area around to where it got reevaluated as to, was that the best location to begin with, or keep it, or move it, or back to where it is now. They had hired a landscape architect. They went through actually a couple of designers and ended up with Dave Roach.
That's who's on
And he had produced, this is his second go at it. There was a earlier design. So there's been development of this all along, and it's not as though it ever went away. We had been in communication with them about it. It just took longer than we anticipated. Also, this is a major business in town. This Vintage Estates starts at California and goes to Weber. They'll be in here for more stuff. We have a relationship with this applicant. And at no time did we think they were going to not perform. They have a good history of performing. And that's kind of the way it is in a small town with a small staff. It's not super bureaucratic. It's a working relationship we establish with these applicants.
Well, my feeling is, it is a process, and processes don't always go smoothly or are finished in the time period you think they are, because sometimes it takes a while to come to a solution that everybody's happy with. And as long as people are participating in that, you guys and the applicant, you can be disappointed that it's not done in the 6 months that was chosen as the kind of mark in the sand. But the reality is that you end up with something that may be better, because it took six more months.
I suppose where we could have improved it is at coming up on the 6-month, had the applicant come back to the ZERB and formally request an extension, and they could have stated their case as to why they needed an extension. We could have had that discussion then. I guess at staff level, we saw the importance of it, but we didn't see it as something that maybe needed that formal extension request, and we just were handling it at an administrative level. So, in the future, if it's, I guess we're always interpreting what's of higher importance, lower importance, prioritizing these projects and conditions, and to some extent, we feel as though what we're here to do too is to make it happen, but administer them as we see appropriate.
And I appreciate that, because you guys do a lot of work. I would almost go one step backwards. I think I would believe, I don't exactly quote me on this, I believe I was one of the ones that kind of pushed the condition of having a time limit on this particular case, because my problem was a presentation of something that caused another problem without a solution. I wanted, okay, we're going to build this new building and cause this bottleneck. Why not, at that presentation, build a new building and create the new path? Why are we, it's overused right now, kicking the can down the road, but I felt like that's what was going on, and that's why I wanted it to be a okay, well, you're creating not a nuisance, that's a strong word, but a difficult design feature. Why don't you have a complete plan so you don't have to worry about, well, there's the rainy season and we get delayed of this. You do it with one time and go through. I think that step backwards is where I would have gone, is I wish there had been a complete plan presented when the construction occurred versus having this.
Right, and that would have been ideal. However, it's been my experience, and try to change it as we may and make it perfect where everything gets in its compartment at the time it needs to get in the compartment. These projects, you name one, and I can pull out the amendments subsequent to the initial approval, every one of them. It's just the nature of them. They get ideas later and want to change stuff. So the idea of it all coming together as one package, that may have been possible, but it's also likely that they would have come back with an amendment to it nevertheless. Just an observation. It's frustrating to staff when you're on your third, fourth amendment. Some of them get pretty wild. Masonry, I couldn't tell you how many that went through.
So I have kind of another question about this. What happens if they do construction on President's Day and you guys aren't working? So, I mean, somebody says, hey, they were working yesterday.
They should call the sheriff.
So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, they were working yesterday and it was President's Day, I took pictures, what do we do?
Well, we tell them, don't do that again, and
Because I agree. I think there's the built, like, if the night project doesn't do a 600 square foot basement or doesn't reduce the size of them, you go, hey, you didn't reduce the size of it.
And there's a couple of things going on with that, the holiday thing. That's really rooted in the noise ordinance. And I don't know what they were doing. Let's assume they were making noise, but at the time of occurrence, the proper procedure is for whoever sees it going on to call the sheriff, and not that the sheriff comes out and starts arresting people or anything. They just tell them that it's not appropriate to work on holidays, and that's a town rule. And it has to be usually linked to generation of noise. If they were inside painting or whatever, they're really most likely not violating that.
Okay, because I figured that's a condition that somebody could violate and it doesn't have any long-term consequences. So what do we do in those situations, which I doubt there are a lot of them. So, okay. I like the idea of having a discussion about it and have concrete answers.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile, and I also think, to your point, that you expressed frustration that we do pass things here that go to the council, and they don't necessarily hear the process of how we got to that point and maybe slide over it. Maybe having a discussion directly with them would be a valuable thing. So, bring up a lot of these different issues. And so speaking face-to-face is always so much better than a written document going forward and people reading it and then moving on. So I think a workshop like that would be good. It wouldn't be a regular council session, though, right? It would be a workshop with the council.
It would perhaps be on a regular council meeting day. It may be before the meeting. If it's a light agenda, it may be during the meeting. It really hasn't been decided. We also don't think that staff will do a real detailed staff report laying forth the issues. We want to make it so that you guys raise what is important to you and start this dialogue.
I think that'd be good.
Okay.
Well, and it really, the genesis is it sprang out of the discussion in Old Town Historic, some of the issues that were expressed
We
by
had
the board.
that meeting at the community center, right?
No,
Or
what
More
the,
recently.
what you've been
the
expressing to
CDRB.
staff as,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it became, we wrote all that down, and it's like, okay, now the next step would do something about it, maybe as far as changing an ordinance, and that's the council. And we talked about it, how did we want to go about approaching the council, and the best approach was have a joint meeting, and the ZDRB can express what they believe is important to look at as possible amendments. And then form it up a little better to where we know where the council is coming from, too. They may buy in on some or all of it, and not so much on other parts of it, and then we get a better direction.
But you get the discussion, and I think that's the most important thing. Other issues? Staff and board reports? Any kind of what's happening in town? Anything cool?
There's really not a lot happening.
You know what?
Have they come in for the new winery application or wine tasting room for McGrath's yet?
No, nothing's been submitted there. On Friday, though, plans were submitted, building permit plans were submitted for Kelly's Convenience Store. So they're looking on doing those interior improvements and getting that up and going.
I do want to publicly applaud him for doing the gas and getting that done, though, and then...
But you know what? So I have a personal complaint about Kelly's, and that is that their premium pump doesn't work. And so...
You're kidding.
So it says, open 24 hours, and so they have a number there. And so you call the number, and there's nobody there. And, I called them when I couldn't, the pump wouldn't work. And so I said, here I am, I'm a resident of Yountville, and the pump's not working, and I really think you should fix it. So I came back a couple of weeks later, still doesn't work.
Wow. It's a new
Wow.
pump, too.
Yeah. And the other
That's
part of it,
shocking.
this is like the part that's really bad about them, is that if you want to cancel your transaction in the middle of it, there's no cancel. So look at it the next time you go there. There's no way to cancel your transaction. So if you choose to stop it, there's no cancel or anything like that.
Oh.
You just have to keep pushing buttons or wait. But it is nice to have a
Wait for
place
it
to
to time
get
out.
gas. Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's right. Well, it'll be nice when they roll up those doors, because I think it still feels like a closed-off shop.
And Washington Park, what's it called?
Washington Square?
Washington Square is just plodding along.
They've pulled everything out of the restaurant. I watched them do that.
Yeah, they haven't pulled their permit yet. It looks
So
like
it's ready for
tomorrow the
pickup?
encroachment, no. The encroachment permit is probably going to be issued tomorrow, which will let them get started on some stuff. The demo permit will be shortly, and they're still working on comments and responses to the building permit set.
They are. But they're actively working on them, so.
And when does the building season end? Theoretically, I know it says
October
soft.
15th for grading,
Okay.
mass grading.
And that's what they have planned, right?
Well, I think there's probably very little mass
Not
grading
needed.
out there because it's
No.
already a prepped site. Mass grading more occurs out at Vineyard Oaks, where they're really hauling dirt around
More
and
than a foot.
Okay.
doing stuff.
Because I know they were trying to change the grade so it drained a different direction.
Yeah, they're going to do some parking lot regrading,
But not
not,
significant
maybe not
enough.
mass grading. Once they get going, though, I mean, they got a lot of summer left
Yeah.
ahead of them.
Yeah.
For sure.
I bet they will get a lot done. That'll be great to get that there.
Well,
I got a little question about back at V Marketplace. Last fall, I think Jan was in here with some handmade drawings. They were going to put 4x4s up and string lights and all that. Does
They're
anybody
up.
remember
Oh,
that?
yeah,
Is that-
The metal
for
stuff.
V Wine Cellar.
The metal's
How
up.
did that happen? Did we have, weren't they supposed to come back for reapproval? of
No,
that?
no, it's my understanding, we gave our approval, we wanted
Of the metal.
it
We
not to
did,
be wood.
we did ask for various
Because I just
things.
noticed today when I was over there walking
That the
around
metal's
that they're up.
Yeah.
Those little
It's like-
metal things are up there, yeah.
The lights aren't up yet, but the
No.
lights
Lights
are
aren't,
metal.
but,
So they constructed the struts to match the rest of the fence, and those have
Right.
been
Yeah,
installed.
that's good.
But I just thought they were coming back one more time with revised,
Oh.
some real drawings and so on. but-
No, what we did, that was we dealt with that unknown as a condition of approval, that it was to match the fence that's there, and
Oh, so when they complied with that, it was a done deal. Okay, that's great.
Now, are they going to do Rob's lights? Rob-
right,
The larger kind of.
more
string lights.
industrial style lights.
Yeah.
I thought that was, one of the things that we talked about.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that became part of the project statement when, before I went to council, so it was incorporated in. However, that did become an issue after approval where the applicant thought they could put up the residential type lights, and Jan was saying, no, you got approved for the industrial lights, so
So
maybe
she actually
they're
called them on it.
still working it out. Mhm.
Huh.
Well, that's the one good thing about Jan and the management. She wants the best thing for the property, and so she definitely keeps her tenants
The
in
outdoor lights
line.
they have at Maison Re, remember I pointed them out to you that time we were up there? Those are really cool.
But those are those more industrial lights, right?
Yeah, and they're taut. They're
Yeah.
not swooping
Oh,
down
oh,
like a
the-
circus.
yeah.
These are really very cool. They should
Yeah.
go up there and snoop around and see how they did it.
Well, it's going to be interesting
Well,
to
they're
see
the same
'em-
ones they used at Bottega, on the underside of the awning.
The swoop down like,
Oh, those, no, they don't swoop, do they?
Some
They're
did.
the firmer, okay.
oh, okay, gotcha. Yes, I was just in there the other day.
The
too.
more taut.
As long
And
as they're
it's
not
it's the
droopy.
type of line where it's more industrial
Right.
rather than the sort of
Exactly.
Christmas tree.
curly type
Yeah.
residential that isn't really industrial enough.
It's got to be a little higher end and more
Yeah.
industrial strength to look right.
Definitely.
And to last.
I think that was a good call on that project.
I am looking forward to seeing how they're going to string these things from these little sticks, even if they're
Pretty
metal.
substantial.
No, they're substantial. They're pretty good.
Well,
They're all going to lean in.
No,
they're
the
there.
masts are substantial, but they're just like flagpoles. So they're going to hang stuff between them and then back to the building.
Well, they haven't put in the cross bracing yet, so just kidding.
Yeah. The trusses.
Right.
Bring in the trusses.
They're taking some old Bay Bridge stuff
Yeah,
and putting it
yeah.
in there.
So it's kind of slow right now in terms of things.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything else to update you guys on.
Okay.
We would probably be coming to you for a wayfinding, what we call a wayfinding sign program, which is the similar signs you see in Napa and Healdsburg and Sonoma that are related to businesses on nearby on that block, usually.
Do they have those in Napa right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. And these are town generated.
Well,
Or is it the
we're
chamber?
starting the discussion, and we want to at least get some feedback on, say, some design parameters of how many on a pole and how many appropriate locations, and,
That's the beauty of Yountville. There's only going to be so many.
yeah.
No, you could have those ones
You
like
think.
over in Sonoma that have like all 98 wineries,
Wineries,
up 29.
directional.
They're like, oh,
Yes.
Madavi's that way, and
Yeah.
Oh, the
everything's
winery
that
ones,
way,
yeah.
that way,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way, that way, that way, that way.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are planning that. I'm just.
No, but I think we will have some, I don't know, feedback from business owners where they always think the more signs, the merry.
And the bigger signs, the better.
And here in town, I think Yountville would definitely want something more low-key and smaller scale. But even down in Napa, that's too much for us.
Those are pretty big, yeah.
We were, I did a short presentation a while back to the council, and I was getting, the basic is a post with some signs on it. And then I was getting more elaborate as far as what else it could serve as, like an information kiosk or a,
iPads. I like the
well, yeah,
iPads.
I actually researched the bulletproof mounts for iPads to where there's covers over them and, they're vandal-proof and everything, and touch screen, and you can get all kinds of information on local events and the tour of, or Taste of Yountville, or whatever else is coming up, and locations of restaurants, have a map on it, have things like walking distances, because we're so lineal. Takes 6 minutes to walk from here to the north end of town. There's more stuff there, and that's their complaint up there, is they feel sort of stranded or whatever, not stranded, but so remote from the other portion that they feel like many people don't, they see what's down in the area we're in right now, and they don't know enough to go to that end and see what's up there.
Doesn't Public Works have that cool laser machine that makes really nice wooden signs that you see around town? I mean, is that the motif that they would maybe try to keep for some of this signage, or?
Yeah, that's one
Those
thing
are
we'll
very
be
nice.
talking about, because everyone else has the metal frames that, and there's no budget right now for doing any of this. The signs would maybe be on a subscription system by the businesses, but the actual putting the frames in to mount them on and all of that, got to talk more about where that money is coming from, the startup
TID.
money.
TID.
It'd be great if we could incorporate that into the art program, that these way markers are actually artistic elements, you know.
Have a contest.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to see that, but I do like the idea that something's interactive and that you can sort of get answers to your questions quickly about distances and location.
All it needs to have is where's the French laundry on it.
Yeah.
That's all it needs.
You
I'm
know-
getting asked where Bottega is all the time.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, with that new chicken coop up here, you see a lot more people walking up and stopping.
I loved it.
No, I think it's great.
terrific.
I think, and I like the little house in there. But I think if there was a way to have people that would go there and then move on to the north end, that maybe that would be a great place to kind of let people know that there's something beyond. And I don't know how
Something
that all
like
works.
Ponch's 1.1 mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a beer. Does the Gordon's Market have to move within a turn? I haven't been involved with that at all. Do they have to have anything done within a certain time frame, or is that the things they are doing
They've
are
had an
already on their
inspection,
schedule?
so they're keeping their permit open and
Okay.
active, although they are moving very slowly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't know when they're really going to be opening. They're just kind of drawing it out.
They had at first told us
our,
by now.
Our take on it is when you start seeing work in the parking lot, they need to put in a grease interceptor and do some regrading in the parking lot and repave it. That's probably when they'll,
That's going to be it, yeah.
yeah, that when they're going to want to open up shortly after that. They're going to participate in an undergrounding project going on up there as well.
Oh, good. You'll have a new owner up there that'll be participating too, the people that bought the McGrath's site. So you're going to get sort of a mass of people that are going to require that, so that'll be good. Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
Number 10?
Number 10. Thank you, Jeff. I would like
I
to
second that.
make a, there's
It's
a
the
move for
summer.
adjournment. Is there a
It's the
second?
summer.
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
We are now officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.